Viewing my screen. You should be able to view my screen now. Okay, great. So let's get started with this session. This session is going to be on planning and designing a clinical study within Oracle Clinical. Before I dive into the Oracle Clinical application, I would like to show you a section of the protocol that we've prepared, which contains relevant information required to plan and design a clinical study. So we've got this document here, which has also been loaded on the Learning Portal. This is a document containing the important aspects from the protocol, which are required for planning and designing of a clinical study. A protocol would be a couple of 100 pages long, and therefore it is not possible in a training environment to go through a protocol and tell you and basically have different pieces of information on different pages and try and build up and show you the how you plan and design a clinical study. So what we've done is we've taken the important sections of the protocol that are required to be entered within Oracle Clinical while planning and designing a clinical study. And these include the title of the study, the protocol number, which phase this particular study is in, what is the therapeutic area being researched, in this case oncology, what is the disease being researched, which is gastric tumor in this case. So you've got a bunch of information, which is, of course, all this information will be available within the protocol, but we've taken that information and collated it into a document which is 2 to 3 pages long, so that you have the information readily available to plan and design a clinical study. Now, to plan a clinical study, the first step that needs to be taken is we need to go into the Oracle Clinical application and click on the plan subsystem. Clicking on the plan subsystem will open up a set of modules, and the first step in planning of a clinical study is to click on the programs module. The programs module essentially is a module where you will enter the therapeutic area that you want to research. So looking at a protocol, the therapeutic area that we want to research is oncology, and therefore we will enter oncology as a therapeutic area as one of the programs. But you need to remember that it is not always that you need to always enter a therapeutic area. If a therapeutic area is already present within the list of available programs because a study has already been conducted on the therapeutic area for oncology, you would not need to create a new program. In that case, you would not need to create a new program, and you would directly go to the next level of creating projects. But we are assuming, obviously, that we've not created a program on oncology, and therefore we want to start with the lowest step, that is creating the program, and that is the most basic step in planning a study. To create a program, you need to enter a unique code for a program. Now, there could be different naming conventions for the code that you use depending upon the standard operating procedures of the company you work with. And it does not matter what code you enter here as long as it's unique amongst all the codes that are present within the database. So we'll use a code GSK 01 because this study is for GlaxoSmithKline. GlaxoSmithKline is the sponsor of the trial, and this is the first therapeutic area being researched by GlaxoSmithKline. So we are giving it a unique code GSK01 because that's the naming convention we are following for programs in our training environment. But as I said, you could have any code, it does not matter as long as it's unique in nature. So here, this is for clinical trials in oncology therapeutic area at GlaxoSmithKline. Okay, you can click on save, and that saves the program for you. So a program is essentially equivalent to a therapeutic area being researched. The next step is to create a project. A project in Oracle Clinical refers to the disease under that therapeutic area that's being researched. Like in this case, in our protocol, the disease that's being researched for the oncology therapeutic area is gastric tumor. So we are going to create a disease under this therapeutic area that we want to research. a disease in Oracle Clinical is equivalent to a project. So a project is a disease under a given program that is being researched in a particular study. So select a given program and click on projects to add the disease under the oncology therapeutic area. Again, there needs to be a unique code for the disease. The coding convention we are using here is the name of the sponsor, the initials of the sponsor, and then 01 because it's the first disease under the therapeutic area being researched, and then GT, which is the short name for the disease itself. So this becomes a unique code for the particular program. As I said, this code can be anything as long as it's unique among the list of projects that you have for that particular therapeutic area. And it would vary depending upon the standard operating procedures of the company that you're using. The description here is gastric tumor because that is the disease that's being researched. The start date is the start date of will be entered by default as today's date by the system because it would consider that you're starting this particular project or the day that you are creating its record within Oracle Clinical. However, if the project has already been started before, in that case the start date can be modified to be anything that you wish to. So for example, if the project was started a month back, you can change this date to June if you would like to do that. Okay. So this is the start date of the project as per the project management plan. And if your project management plan has already been created and it has an end date associated with the project, you can enter that end date as well. But not all projects will have an end date at this stage because you would not be able to kind of get a realistic feel as to when your project would complete during the time of initiation of the project. So therefore the end date is an optional field, it's not a mandatory field. If you have that information within the project management plan, you enter that end date here. If you don't, you can just leave it as blank. Click on save and that saves the project for you. Similarly, if there are any new diseases that are being researched in the oncology therapeutic area, later within, after a couple of months, a new oncology trial comes in for the disease colon cancer. For example, you can select the program and click on projects and add a new project under this program by the name of colon tumor. So essentially, you can add any number of projects. A single program can have any number of projects associated with it. That's the whole idea. Okay. So once you've created a project within a program, the next step is to associate a program to the investigational new drug that will be tested. In this case, the investigational new drug that's being tested is Kappa-Flox. That's the investigational new drug that will be tested. So to assign Kappa-Flox to the program for oncology, we will select the oncology therapeutic area and click on compound assigned. What you need to remember here is that you can only assign a compound at this stage. You cannot create a new compound. So if I was wanting to create Kappa-Flox, I cannot create Kappa-Flox as a compound because it will not allow me to do that. Okay. If I choose from a list of available compounds, there is only one compound that has been created so far, which is sulfonamide. That's not the one that you want to associate to your given program. So you delete that, and remember that if your investigational drug has not already been created, you will need to exit out from this form and go into the design subsystem. Under the design subsystem, you go into treatments and then go into active substances. Design, treatments, active substances. Click on active substances and it will open up a window which allows you to add a new investigational new drug. In this case, enter the name of the investigational new drug, which is Kappa-Flox. Enter a short name for this a short code for this particular medication. It could be anything, CPF, and click on save. Once you do that, a substance ID will automatically be generated, which is a random number by which this particular investigational drug will be referred to within the Oracle Clinical application. Click on exit and go back into the programs window. Now select the given program that you want to associate a compound to And after you've done that, click on compounds assigned to program. Now you will be able to choose from the list of available compounds, out of which Kappa Flox is one of the entries. So now you can choose Kappa Flox and then associate this particular investigational drug to this particular program. Click on save after you've done that and click back to go to the main form. That is how you create programs which are therapeutic areas. You create projects which are diseases under those therapeutic areas, and then you assign compounds to the program which are the investigational drugs that you want to associate to a given program. The next step is to create organizational units. Organizational units in Oracle Clinical refer to the sponsors of the clinical trial. So if you click on the organizational units column, it allows you to add a new sponsor. If I'm a contract research organization and this is my Oracle Clinical application, I would have multiple sponsors that I'm working for. So to associate a sponsor to a particular study, you'll first have to create a sponsor within the database. That is done using the organizational units module. Here, the new sponsor for this program that we are creating is GlaxoSmithKline. So we're going to create an entry for GlaxoSmithKline as one of the sponsors within the list so that we can associate it to this study later on. If you have a association of start date with the contract, you can mention that there. Otherwise, it will be the day that you enter that information within Oracle Clinical. If you have an end date of association with the sponsor, if you have a limited contract with the sponsor, and you've got a fixed end date of your association with the sponsor, then you enter your end date there. Else, you can leave it to be blank. It's again an optional field. Short description can be entered for the sponsor as well. So in this case, GlaxoSmithKline is the sponsor of some of the programs. Click on save, and that saves the organizational unit for you. Now the next step after organizational units is to create regions. Regions are geographical locations where your sites or hospitals will be located. So we can click on the regions module and it will open up a form which will allow us to enter three types of region. We can either enter states, country, or we can enter continents. Our protocol will tell us what are the geographical locations where the site will be located. In this case, it says that the trial regions where the site will be located. If anyone's not on mute, can you please mute yourself, because there's a lot of disturbance coming in. So go and Thelma, probably you'll need to mute yourself. Okay, I believe that should be fine. So here we've got three types of geographical units, which are states, continents, and countries. And our protocol tells us the trial regions where the sites will be recruited. And these are the geographical locations. You've got India, UK, Netherlands, and US, and you've got some states within each of these countries. So under India, as you can see, there is Rajasthan, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, and Chennai. And under UK, you've got London and Maidenhead. Under the Netherlands, you've got Rotterdam and Amsterdam. So what you need to see is that if the states, continents, and countries that are supplied to you on the protocol, if they are already present within the application, because any previous study might have utilized the same geographical locations where the sites were located. So it is possible that most of the geographical locations that you see on the protocol are already listed within the Oracle Clinical application because they've been previously used. If you're not able to see some of the geographical locations, you can create them. For example, under the Netherlands, I can see Rotterdam. I can see Amsterdam, but I cannot see Rotterdam. So I have Amsterdam here, but Rotterdam is not there. So I can create a new region for Rotterdam and choose this to be a state. The start date of your association with a site located in that location will need to be entered here. If you have an end date, you can mention that. Otherwise, it's again an optional field. Similarly, you can save this record. Now we know that Rotterdam is a part of the Netherlands, and Netherlands is not there in the list of values as well. So what we can do here as well is to create a record for Netherlands and enter that as a country and save it. Now what we can also do is create a logical relationship between a state and a country, or a country and a continent. So I can click on Netherlands and I can say regions within this region, and I can select from the list of values and choose the states. From the state I can choose the state that falls under the country of Netherlands. In this case, Amsterdam is one of them. The second is Rotterdam. So what I've done is I've created a logical relationship between the state and its country by using the navigation buttons region within this region. Similarly, I could have selected Rotterdam and said regions this one is a part of, and I could have chosen Netherlands that way. So either way, when you choose it, there is a two-way relationship that is created between a continent, country, and a state, which is later utilized by the application to create a list of values. So this is how you create different kinds of regions, and you can create more regions as many regions that are available within the protocol can be created within this application here. After creating programs, projects, compounds, organizational units, and regions, the next step is to create a basic version of your study, which is called a plan study. To create a plan study, we click on the plan studies module, and that opens up a plan study. That opens up a form that allows us to create a plan study. In this case, the study that we need to create is for GlaxoSmithKline. So we'll have to enter a unique code for the study. In this case, the unique code is GSK001 because it's the first study for GlaxoSmithKline. The title of the study comes directly from the protocol. So you can copy the title from the protocol, and this one is a phase 3 double-blind placebo-controlled study to test safety and efficacy of Kapaflox. Now comes the point where you have to associate a sponsor to this study. So you have to choose the organizational unit that you want to associate to this study. An organizational unit, as I told you, is the sponsor of the trial. So here now it gives us a list of values of the available sponsors, because you've already created these sponsors within the organizational units module. So I can now choose from the list of available sponsors, in this case GlaxoSmithKline. Similarly, since I've entered all the regions, I can now choose the master country associated with this particular study. Master country refers to the country where the trial will be filed for regulatory approval. In this case, our protocol tells us that the trial will be filed for regulatory approval in the US. So country where regulatory filing will happen, the primary country for regulatory filing will be the US. So you can choose US from the list of values. And it will only show us the list of available countries from the regions module. Here, it will also ask us the number of investigators, which is again there in our protocol. It tells us a total of 2 investigators shall be recruited within the study. So we select 2 over there. This is a smaller study. The design type is parallel. Parallel design types are those design types where there are 2 treatment arms, wherein the subjects being bifurcated, with the subjects being enrolled in any one of those treatment arms are either receiving a placebo or receiving an investigational drug throughout the duration of the study. That means in the middle of the study, you're not crossing over medications between the 2 treatment arms. The phase of the clinical study is phase 3, as is clear from the title of the protocol. That is, it's a phase 3 trial. Now we have to associate the therapeutic area to which the study is related. In this case, the study is related to the therapeutic area oncology. So we select that program from the list of values. And once you select the program, the appropriate project within that program will also get selected. Since there's only one project within this program of oncology, it straight away selects that particular project. If there were more than one, you would get an opportunity to select from the list of values. So what we've done in the creation of a plan study is created a logical relationship between a study, its sponsor, the country where it will be filed for regulatory approval, the number of investigators, the type of study design, the phase of the clinical study, the therapeutic area to which it's related, and the disease which is being researched under that study. Okay, so that is called a plan studies module. Now, if you have any questions with respect to the plan subsystem, you can ask me now before I move ahead to the design phase. No questions? Okay, so we will then move forward with the process of study design. So this is how you plan a clinical study with an Oracle Clinical. To design a clinical study is done using the design subsystem of Oracle Clinical. So to design a clinical study, you go into the design subsystem and click on the studies module. On clicking on the studies module, you are led to a sub-module which is called the Easy Study Design sub-module. Now, when you click on the Easy Study Design sub-module, this is where you will actually design a new study. Remember that to design a new study, you will first have to plan it using the Plan Studies module of the Plan subsystem. If you have not planned the study, you will not be able to design it. Now, once you enter into the Easy Study Design form, the first step you need to do is click on either this down or the up arrow, and this will clear the form. Once the form gets cleared up, the next step is to choose from the list of available studies that you can design. It will only show you those studies which have already been planned. Like I've planned the GSK 001 study, so it shows me that within the list of options to further go ahead and design it. I can select that study. Now the good part is when I press tab or when I move to the next field, it fills up the rest of the data, which means that it fills up the study title, the program code, the project code, the organization unit, the master country. All this information gets filled up because it's fetching that information from the information that you entered at the planned studies level. So when you created the planned studies, you entered all this information and it fetches that information for you once you're designing the study. What it does not fetch is what you've not entered, which is the version number of the study and the maximum duration of the study. The version number of the study has to be entered, which is version number 1 for a new study that you create. Version numbers of the study generally do not change unless there is a major change in the protocol which calls for a new version of the study to be designed and the data for the existing study to be purged or removed. So if you want to create a new version of the same study, you can do that, but it is only needed to be done under those circumstances where there is a major change to the protocol. Okay. The maximum study duration is the maximum duration for which the study will last, and this information is always there within a section of the protocol called study design. This section tells us that this is a double-blind, placebo-controlled study which is randomized, multicentric, and multinational, and it is used for comparison of kappa flocks against placebo in patients with gastric tumor. The total duration of this study is 365 days. Now the unit over here is days. It's not 1 year, it's not 12 months, it's 365 days. So the time unit of event automatically becomes a day, and the maximum study durations becomes 365 days in all. The patient replacement rule is set to none, which means that no replacement patients will be allowed after the study has initiated. If you've taken 30 patients and 10 of the patients dropped out, you will only submit the data for 20 patients to the regulatory authorities. You will not replace any new patients. It's good not to replace patients because otherwise the data becomes denormalized, which means if you have 7 visits in your clinical trial and first 3 visits have already been completed and a patient drops out, if you replace that dropout with a new patient, you can only collect the data from visit 3 onwards up to visit 7. therefore the data that you get at the end is not normalized data. You get data which is different for a bunch of patients and different for another bunch of patients. So for some patients you'll have data from visit 1 to visit 7. For other set of patients you'll have data only from visit 4 to visit 7, which is a problem because it causes problems in the process of data analysis. Therefore mostly the patient replacement rule will be set to none. After you've done this, you will have to save this study, and on saving the study you will get an option. Does this study require second pass data entry? This option decides whether in your study during the process of data entry second pass will be performed on every data that is entered by the first pass operator, which means that the case report form will go through data entry twice. This is always an acceptable option that you should perform second pass data entry within your study. If you select no here, your data entry operators will not be able to perform second pass data entry. So always select yes for this option unless your protocol tells you that there's no need for second pass data entry to be performed for that study. So select yes over here, which will ensure that the study can be used to perform data entry twice. Once you've done that, the next step is to create intervals. Intervals are time periods into which your study is divided. Our study design table will tell us how many time periods is a study divided into. So here, out of the 365 days, our study is divided into a 10-day screening period, a 10-day baseline period, a 320-day dosing period, and a 25-day completion period. Screening period is that period where the subjects will come to the investigators, and they will be screened for the fact whether their condition matches the inclusion-exclusion criteria or whether they qualify the inclusion-exclusion criteria of the study. If they do qualify the inclusion-exclusion criteria, they will be moved to the baseline period. In the baseline period, the subject will be devoid of any medications that they are currently taking, and they will also not be given the investigational new drug, which means that it will be a washout period wherein all the medications within the body of the patient will get removed from the body, so that the patient is at a baseline level to start with a new medication, and it also prevents any complications in the clinical trial. If the baseline period gets completed, the next phase will be the dosing period, wherein the subject will be given doses of the investigational new drug across several visits. And finally, there will be a completion period wherein the subject will complete the clinical trial, and it will be tested whether the subject has been compliant with the medications and the study requirements. So our first period is the screening period, which is for a period of 10 days. So we click on the intervals module, and here our first period, at a minimum there will be 4 time periods. Okay, I have a question. When do you use available for replication flag? Replication is essentially defined as the process of keeping a backup of all the data within your database on other servers that are located outside your company. So if you would like to take up a backup of the database so that there is business continuity planning built into the systems, you can do that by clicking on the available for replication flag in that case. So replication flag needs to be marked if you want this study to be backed up to servers outside the location, so that if there's a natural calamity in your organization, you still have a backup of the data or of that study, so as to ensure business continuity planning. Different companies do it in different ways. Some companies have a daily backup plan where data is backed up onto hard drives and then moved onto fireproof cabinets, etc. And other companies might have a process by which all the studies within Oracle Clinical can be mirrored to a mirror server located elsewhere around the globe. Does that answer your question? Well, this is not the requirement for the protocol. This is just a requirement for company specific. This is just a company specific business continuity planning option. So I'm not discussing this with you. I didn't discuss this with you because it is specifically catering to the IT department of your organization, who will be responsible for moving a particular study or replicating a particular study. And this does not need to be only marked here. It can be at the back end, it can be set that all studies need to be replicated. Even if it's not marked to be replicated here, it can still be replicated as a part of your business continuity planning. Okay, so the first time period is the screening time period. The short name automatically becomes screening, and the previous phase is auto-populated. In this case, this is the first time period, so there will be no previous phase. The time period type or the phase type will be screening from the list of values, and this list of values is called a reference code list. So you select screening because it is the screening time period. The time unit will be days, and the randomization account status needs to be left blank. Randomization is generally performed using the IVRS system because you do not have all the patients enrolled at the same time. Oracle Clinical can only be used to perform randomization if you have a bunch of patients who need to be randomized, and those are all the patients that have to be participating in the site. But that's not the typical scenario how it happens. It's because patients will be coming on will not come together in a clinical trial. Patients come over a period of time. So whenever a patient comes, it is always the best idea that the investigator, whenever a patient comes to the investigator at the site, the investigator will dial up the IVRS system, and the IVRS system will randomize the patients into a treatment arm of the study and allocate a particular patient ID to the patient. So randomization is generally done using an IVRS system. That is the reason you leave it as blank over here, and you will see that the randomization account status will change to closed once we save this record. The blind type over here is the double blind, because this is a double blind study where neither the investigator nor the biostatistician will know what drug is being received by which treatment arm. The minimum duration for any time period will always be 1, and the maximum duration is the maximum time frame in which that time period will be completed. So in this case, the screening period is for a period of 10 days. So the minimum duration is 1 and the maximum duration is 10. Because it's for 10 days, so the minimum duration is 1 and maximum is 10. When I click on save, you will see that the randomization account status type changes to closed, which means that the system understands that the randomization will be done by an IVRS system, and the allocated randomization IDs and patient IDs will be sent across to the data management team for entry into the database. Similarly, just like you have the screening time period, you also have the second time period, which is baseline. Now for the baseline time period, the phase type is selected as baseline. The blind type is again double blind here. The minimum duration is 1, and if we see baseline period, this is also for a period of 10 days. So the minimum duration is 1 and the maximum duration is 10 again. Click on save, and this time you will see that the previous phase populates at screening because it understands that there is a time period before this. The next time period is dosing, and it's for a period of 320 days. So the dosing time period has to be selected from a list of values, and this is dosing in this case. It's a double blind interval as well, and the minimum duration is 1 and the maximum duration is 320. The previous phase automatically populates as baseline when you save it, and the last phase is called the completion period, which is for a period of 25 days. So enter the completion period here. The completion period is also called the maintenance phase. It's called the maintenance phase because at this stage you will ensure that the subjects that have participated in your clinical trial have no ongoing adverse events, and you will follow them up for a period of 30 to 60 days so that you know that they are not facing any side effects due to the drug. I have a question here from Chetna. Do you have to click save after every interval entry? It's a good idea to do that. It's not necessary to do that, but it's a good idea to do that because just in case you lose connectivity, your work that you've completed will not be saved. So it's better that you keep saving your records as you're working on them. but it's not obviously a necessity. You can do the entire block together and then save it. That's a possibility as well. So for the completion phase, you will choose phase type as maintenance. This is double blind. The minimum duration is 1 and the maximum duration is 25 days. And you save this. No, the system does not have an option for autosave. You will have to save everything because this is a web-based application. It does not work on autosave functions. Only work in things like Gmail, which have a technology called jQuery built into it. So jQuery is basically a technology that allows you to, kind of not navigate away from a page to save the record that you enter within that page. For example, if you're using Gmail, if you're typing in a mail, it autosaves that mail into your drafts. You don't have to save it. But that technology is not built into web-based applications like Oracle. So you'll have to save the records as you go. It does not autosave. So if you enter something and you do not click, you do not save before exiting, it will ask you whether you want to save the record before moving out. Okay, after you complete all the information, it'll ask you, do you want to save the record, because you've not saved it. So it's important to save the record as before you exit out of a particular window. Does that answer your question? So I'm just going to enter this record and then I'll be able to delete this. Okay, so I have screening, baseline, dosing, and completion as per the protocol. The next step is to create events. Events in Oracle Clinical are visits into which the intervals are divided. So the intervals we divided into screening, baseline, dosing, and completion are further divided into smaller time periods called events. Events are visits. They are also called clinical plan events. This is when the subjects will come to the investigator and get a certain type of data collected by the investigators. So to enter the events in Oracle Clinical, we click on the events navigation button, and there is a section of the protocol which will tell us what the events is. It's called the study schedule section, and it tells us what will be the events within this particular, or what will be the visits into which this particular study is divided. So here the study is divided into 7 visits: visit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Visit 1 is the 10-day screening period. Visit 2 is the 10-day baseline period. Visit 3, 4, 5, and 6 are divisions of the 320-day dosing period that we had. So the dosing interval is divided across 4 visits: visit 3, visit 4, visit 5, and visit 6. After the dosing interval, we have a completion time period, which is visit 7. So visit number 1 itself is the screening period, and it lasts for a time period of 10 days. So we'll enter the event name as visit 1. The interval over here is screening, because visit 1 is the screening time period. If it's an optional visit, because it's only supposed to be completed by only a set of the subjects and not all subjects, then it's going to be an optional visit. It will be specified in the protocol whether a visit is optional or not. For example, there could be a visit in which data needs to be collected only for the females in the trial. So that becomes an optional visit then. The numeric value for the visit is visit number 1. And the termination type over here will be early termination, because if the subject gets terminated at this stage, it means that he's been terminated early in the study, because he's not even taken any of the dosage, and he's not completed the trial. Then comes the offset from interval start. Offset from interval start is basically the minimum and maximum duration for which that particular visit will last. This is shown to us by the summary of the study design table. It tells us what are the study days for the screening period, which means that the screening period will start on the first day and get completed on the 10th day. And there is no variation over here, because it is supposed to get completed on the 10th day, and it will get completed on the 10th day. So here the minimum offset is 10 and the maximum offset is 10 as well. because it is the maximum time frame in which the screening period or the visit 1 will get completed. So visit 1 or the screening period will get completed in a minimum of 10 days and a maximum of 10 days as well. However, if we see visit number 2 is the baseline time period. And visit number 2 is baseline. The numeric value for this is 2. And this is neither early termination nor normal termination, so we leave it as blank. Because at this stage, if the subject gets terminated, he is not called an early terminator, because he did qualify into the clinical trial and got enrolled into it. He's also not called a completer because he's not completed the trial. Here, if you see, after this 10-day screening period comes the baseline period, which is visit number 2. Now, in visit number 2, baseline period starts on the 11th day immediately after the screening period, and it continues for 10 days up till the 21st day. So from the 11th day to the 21st day, the baseline period will occur. However, there is an offset associated with this, which is plus minus 2. Plus minus 2 essentially means that the baseline period might get completed, or the visit 2 might get completed 2 days before or 2 days after. So at a minimum, the baseline period of visit number 2 will get completed on 21 minus 2 days, which is 19 days, or it might get completed on 21 plus 2 days, which is 23 days. So the minimum offset over here becomes 19, and the maximum offset over here becomes 23. So 21 minus 2 and 21 plus 2. Visit number 3, 4, 5, and 6 are for the dosing period, which lasts for a period of 320 days. Unless otherwise stated in the protocol, you can consider the visits to be equally divided. So essentially, if the entire dosing period is for 320 days and it's divided across 4 visits, then each visit will be for 320 divided by 4, which is 80 days. So visit number 3 is the dosing period, and this dosing period has a minimum offset of 80 and a maximum offset of 80 as well. So here there is an offset of plus minus 2, but it applies to the entire dosing period. So if we want, we can implement that variation between on the 3rd visit, on the 4th visit, on the 5th visit, or on the 6th visit. It will not make an impact whichever visit we kind of make it on, because the variation should be plus minus 2. So similarly, for visit number 4, it's the same. Offset is 80 and 80. Visit number 5 is also the same. However, visit number 6, which is the final visit of the dosing period, the minimum offset, now we will take the variation into consideration, which is plus minus 2. So at the minimum, it will get completed in 78 days, and at a maximum, it will get completed in 82 days. So we are taking an offset of plus minus 2, wherein 80 minus 2 is 78 and 80 plus 2 is 82. So we are putting the minimum and maximum offset as 78 and 82. Then comes the last time period, which is visit number 7. Sorry, this should be visit number 6 here. Then comes visit number 7. And visit number 7 is the maintenance phase of the completion time period. So we select that. This type of termination here will be normal termination, because the subject has completed all visits and now the subject gets terminated from the clinical trial. Termination would also mean completion from the clinical trial. Here the minimum offset is 365, because that's the total, that's the day that the completion period is supposed to get completed, and there is no offset. So minimum will be 365 here and maximum will be 365 as well. So this becomes our various visits and how we create these visits and create offsets for them. Now, one thing to remember is that we do not identify patients by their name or by their initials. Instead, we identify patients by patient identifiers. To identify patients by identifiers, we will first need to create those patient identifiers using the design subsystem. This is done using the Create Patient Possessions navigation button. There are three kinds of patient identifiers we can create: screening patients, normal patients, and replacement patients. Our protocol will tell us what are the number of screening and normal patients we need to recruit. So here a total of 50 subjects need to be screened and 30 subjects need to be chosen as qualifiers for the next level, which is baseline. So here the screening patients positions will start with S1 and go all the way up to S50. So screening patient IDs are always always start with the initials of S, and normal patient IDs always start with the initial of N. So here it will be N1 to N30, that is 30 patient IDs will be created for normal patients and 50 patient IDs will be created for screening patients. There will be no patient IDs created for replacement patients because I said replacement is not allowed for this study. Once you do this, you can click on create patient positions. It will create those patient IDs for you, and you can display the existing patient positions that have been created by using the display existing patient positions button. So here it tells you that 15 screening patients and 50 normal patients have been created. However, they have not been assigned to a site or to an investigator at this stage. Okay. So here comes the next step where we want to assign sites and investigators to a given study. But before we do that, do you have any questions here that you would like to ask? Okay, please go ahead. Okay, I'm sorry I missed that out. We also have to assign treatments over here. Alina, thanks for pointing that out. I missed out on the treatments button. The treatments also have to be assigned at this level. Treatment patterns are nothing but the treatments that you will be allocating to the two different treatment arms of your study. And to do that, you can click on the treatments button and allocate the treatments that you want to allocate to the two different treatment arms. Generally, you will be allocating a placebo to one of the treatment arms, and you will be allocating the investigational drug to the other treatment arm. So, you click on back. Here, now you cannot allocate treatment patterns till the time you create treatment patterns. Here you can only choose from a list of available treatment patterns. However, in our case, we don't want to allocate safinamide to this particular study. We want to allocate Kappa-Flox. So just like we did in the plan subsystem, we will have to exit out from this window first and go into design, treatments, and this time we will not go into active substances, but we'll go into patterns. So when you click on patterns, it will ask you to enter a treatment pattern. Whatever treatment pattern you enter here will be the one that will be printed on the labels of the medication that is sent from the pharmacy to the investigator. So when the investigator is actually giving the medication to the patient, he will see either TRP03 or TRP04 written on those medications, and he'll not know what medication he's given to the subject. Therefore, blinding, the process of blinding can happen only if you assign treatment patterns to your study. So here, treatment pattern 1 is 3 tablets of Kappa-Flox, and they're 50 milligram tablets. And treatment pattern 4 is placebo as a control to Kappa-Flox. So this is the fourth treatment pattern is a placebo, and it will be used as a control to Kappa-Flox. So once you've added these treatment patterns here, you can then exit out and go back into your studies module, easy study design, and click on treatments, and now assign the treatments to your study. So you can now assign treatment pattern 03, which is tablets of Kappa-Flox, and assign treatment pattern 4, which is placebo as a control to Kappa-Flox. So whenever the patient IDs that you've created are recruited within a study and they are enrolled within a treatment arm, they'll be allocated one of these treatment patterns randomly. So that is what the treatment pattern does. Is that clear? Okay, so after you've defined the treatment patterns, the next step is to define investigators and sites. So under investigators and sites, you have three options: investigators, sites, and study sites. Investigators and sites are not that important. It's just a database of all investigators and all sites within the application. So when you click on the investigators module, it shows you a bunch of investigators with their addresses, telephone numbers, and other details. This is a list of all the investigators who have at some point of time participated in a clinical trial for the CRO. Most of the times, the investigators who are participating in various studies for the CRO will remain the same. In every clinical study, you will receive an investigators and sites document, and this document will tell you what are the investigators and what are the sites participating in the clinical trial. You will then have to match that list to see whether if there is an investigator which is there within that list but is not there within the database. If it's not there, you can take the details of that investigator from that list and put it right here. So this is just a database of all the investigators who are participating, or any new investigator that you want to add who will be participating in any future study. We are not telling right now which study that investigator will be participating. We are just adding a database, adding it to the database of investigators available to conduct various studies. Similarly, for sites, all the hospitals that you have a contract with are listed over here. If you have a new contract with a hospital which has happened for a particular study, then you add that hospital and its details within this list here. Give a unique code for the site. It's generally an incremental. So if you see like 50 sites already listed, then the new site that you would like to add will be site 51, and then you'll add the name of the the hospital and other details about how you can contact that particular site. However, what is important is study sites. Study sites allow you to link a site to an investigator and also to a patient. It creates a relationship between a site, an investigator, and a patient for a given study. So if I click on study sites, the important thing to note here is at the top in the form title bar, it shows us that study ID is GSK001, which means that whatever sites we add now will be added to this particular study. So I can choose from the list of available sites, and our protocol tells us that there will be 2 investigators and therefore 2 sites who will participate in this clinical study. Site 001 is selected first from the list of values. OK to ship means that the sites have been initiated, and you've got a go-ahead from the clinical operations team to say that you can ship out the case report forms to these sites, and you can ship out the investigation new drugs to these sites as well. If you've received that go-ahead, you can click on OK to ship. Frozen is something which is automatically marked by the system when you freeze the database during the process of extracting out the data to sending it to the regulatory authorities. Once the site is frozen, you will not be able to make any changes to the site or add any data for that particular site during the process of data entry. When you click on save, automatically a study site ID will be generated, which will identify that particular site within this particular study. So it will identify site 001 in this study by the site ID 42501. Because it is possible that this site is also being used in other studies. So whenever it's used in other studies, a unique study site ID for those studies will automatically be generated as well. Just like you added the first site, similarly you can add the second site as well. And for this site, you can mark OK to ship if it's ready to ship and it's been initiated, and click on save. It will generate a unique study site ID for this particular site as well for this particular study. Once you've added the sites here, you will now associate each site of hospital with its respective investigator or doctor. So you select site 001 and click on assignments. You can now assign investigators the first investigator, this site. The start date is the start date of your association with that investigator. If you've been associated before, you can enter the date of association. If not, you can enter today's date. The termination date is the date when you want to end your association with that particular sponsor, that particular investigator. This is in those cases where you want to terminate the investigator because he's conducted fraud or any one of those activities. The number of patients required to be enrolled by this investigator we know that there are 30 patients in this clinical trial. A total of 30 patients shall be going through all the phases of the clinical, all the time periods of the clinical trial, or all the visits. So we divide these 30 patients across two sites. We give investigator 01, which is for site 001, 15 patients. If you've got a contract date with the investigator, you can mention that contract date here. If a discontinuation letter date has been received, if a discontinuation letter has been received from the FDA, barring the investigator to participate in any clinical trial because he's conducted fraud, then the date of that discontinuation letter and the date of termination will need to be entered here. You click on save, and this will save the record for you. Similarly, for site 002, you'll click on assignments, and you'll select the second investigator that you want to associate with this particular trial. Enter the start date of association. If you have that date information available, you can enter that here. Else it will be the date that you're entering that investigator for that particular study. The termination date, if any, has to be entered, and the number of patients is 15 again. Now once we've entered all this information here, the next step, we've associated sites to a study, we've associated investigators to their respective sites. Now we have to associate sites to patients. So we select site 001 and we click on patients. We will then select the patient IDs which will be allocated to that particular site, which means only that site will be able to randomize or will be able to allocate these patient IDs to the subjects participating in the clinical trial. So for the first 15 patients, N1 to N15, I allocate to site 001, which means that these N1 to N15 subject IDs can only be used by site 001 to allocate to its patients. So you do site all the way up to N15. Sorry for that. Now, after you've done that, click on save, click back, and similarly for site 002, associate the remaining patients, which is patient number N15, patient number N16 onwards to N30. So N16, 17, 18, all the way up to N30, you can select the patients and allocate them to site 002. Once you've done that, click on save, and that completes the process of allocating patients to their respective sites. So this completes the process of designing a clinical study. If you have any questions, you can ask me now. So as a part of this week's assignment, what you need to do is you will have the same section of the protocol is available on the e-learning portal. You need to download the section of the protocol, go into Oracle Clinical and plan and design a clinical study before we have our next session. So in the planning of the study, create programs, projects, a compound design, create organizational units and regions, create a planned study. After that, go into the design subsystem, studies, easy study design, and use this up or down arrow to clear the form and select the planned study that you want to kind of go ahead and create. Now once you've created this study, you will have to specify intervals for it, events, treatment patterns, and patient positions. The last thing that you need to do is, of course, go into investigators and sites, study sites, and allocate sites to the respective investigators and the respective patients. So that's a part of this week's assignment. The assignment can be found on the learning portal under the e-library section. Okay, so this is this week's assignment. Now, those of you who have problems with logging in, I'll try and see what I can do about it. Thelma had problems with the login applet. What was the error information you were receiving? And before that, can you let me know whether you're running a 64-bit operating system or a 32-bit operating system? Okay, and what was the error message that were you able to install Oracle? Were you able to install the plugin by any chance? You could check in your program files, like I'm doing here. You can check in your program files and type in JINIT, and it should show up JInitiative Control Panel for you. If it shows that, it means that it's been installed properly. Can you check and tell me if you can see the JInitiative Control Panel for yourself? Is there anyone else who has a problem with logging into the Oracle Clinical application or not being able to view the login page of the application? Okay, Thelma, can you just check? You go into the programs window and search for the program that you have available, or you can go into all programs if you're running the earlier version of Windows, and see if you have a program called JInitiative Control Panel. Okay, Alina, you don't have any problems with logging in. That's great. So that's fine. If you'd like, you can stay on the call, or you can. Those of you who don't have a problem with logging in can drop off the call if you wish to. I'll just help out those who cannot log in, so I can so they can get started with the practical sessions as well. That was all as a part of this week's session, and I'll see you in the next session next week. Those of you, as I said, who are able to log in, you could leave the call, or you could stay on if you'd like to kind of get more information about how you log in, etc. Okay, Thelma, are you able to view the JInitiative Control Panel? Are you able to view it within your programs, within your all programs window? Are you able to hear me, Thelma? Were you able to find JInitiative Control Panel in your programs? Okay, so that is good news. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to view your desktop for a bit so that I can know what's going on. I'm making you the presenter. You'll need to accept. You'll get an invitation to accept being the presenter. So now, so I've just given you the access to be the presenter. You should now. You should now give me the access to view your screen. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, I've done that now. So you should just receive an invitation to become the presenter. And I should be able to view your screen in a bit. Meeta, the application does not need to have Java application installed, but you need to install the JInitiative plugin that you can download from the login page. Thelma, I cannot yet view your screen, so I'm not really sure you accepted that invitation to make yourself the presenter. You'll have to start screen sharing. That will be one of the options on the GoToMeeting panel. There will be an option to show your screen. Okay, I can view your screen now. So you are on you have Oracle Clinical JNH properties opened up. Can you close that window, please? And now can you open up Internet Explorer? And please go to the link that I sent you on to log into the Oracle Clinical application, which is cdms.clinacademy.com/opa45/launch.htm.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, just I want to quick question. Okay, by the way, before we start the clinical trial, we have to take the permission from the FDA.
Yeah, you'll need to take permission from the FDA in terms of in terms of an IND approval. You'll have to file for an IND approval, which is an investigation new drug application, based on which is based on the fact of your preclinical trials.
Okay. Once we done the once we make the tablet for the clinical trials, then we have to submit that tablets to the FDA before approval to use
You
to
need
the
to submit a
patient.
new drug. After you've completed the trial, you need to submit the results as a new drug application to the FDA for approval.
Also, new test result we have to submit to the FDA, right? Before trial.
Yeah.
Before trial.
No, before the trial you will have to submit preclinical data which shows that your drug is safe and effective, and you have reached a dose which is safe for humans. After the clinical development process, you can submit the data that you collected on testing out on humans as a new drug application to the FDA.
And so after taking the medication to the patient, new patient, and something is wrong, then how to work it out? Who is the responsible for that?
If something is wrong after you submitted it,
Is after taking the tablet, something is wrong, then who is the responsible for that one?
it is the pharmaceutical company will be responsible, because the pharmaceutical company also has to track. There is also a phase 4 which is called post-marketing surveillance. So the pharmaceutical company has to track for a couple of years what are the adverse events, how are the subjects having problems, and if it identifies that there is really a problem with the drug and a lot of people are facing side effects, then they have to withdraw the drug or file for withdrawal of the drug. So post-marketing surveillance is done by the pharmaceutical company, and they are responsible if any side effects to the drug happen.
Okay, thank you.
So Thelma, you're on the login page now. If you can click on the login button once, please. Alright, so when you click on the login, I'm not really sure, have you clicked on the login button? Nothing happens, you're saying.
You are telling to me?
So it could be possible that you've got a pop-up blocker enabled. If you can go towards the right hand side of your window, there's a plus symbol and there's a setting symbol there. No, towards the top. Yeah, go to the setting symbol, the one on the right, the one towards the right, the one towards the right of the plus, yeah. And okay, so I believe this is the toolbar settings. This is not what I intended. I'm sorry for that. You can go back to the main. You can close this window actually. You can close the tab, the Yahoo toolbar tab that's opened up. Go back to the login page. You have 3 tabs open, so you can close one of them. Okay, so now I would like you to go under Tools. You have File, Edit, View, Favorites, and Tools. So I would like you to go under Tools. Not there, towards the left hand side, if you can see Tools. Now right above that, that's not the one. You have a bar which says File, Edit, Tools. Those are the Internet Explorer options essentially. So I believe that you have a pop-up blocker enabled. That's what's causing it, which is what you need to disable. I'll help you disable that. We'll wait for a bit, let your computer respond. I believe that it's not responding right now, so just let it respond for a bit, and I'll help you with that process.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I have a question. I was able to download it, and then when I click on login, it gave me, there's a window came up saying that this one needs a Java application. So,
Okay.
is that something that I need to install on my computer?
This is Meeta?
Yeah, this is Meeta, I'm sorry.
Okay. Just give me a minute, Meeta. Let me just resolve Thelma's issue, and then I'll view your screen. I'll be able to better tell you what the issue is then.
Okay.
Yeah, so just give me a couple of minutes while I resolve Thelma's issue, and then I'll come to you and resolve your issue as well.
Okay.
The best thing, Thelma, would be to close that window and reopen Internet Explorer and go to the login page, if you will. If you do that once more, the window will probably close. Okay, there's another method to do this. If you go to the section where you were trying to end the process, yeah, go into processes. Instead of ending the task, just go into processes, and here you'll have explore.exe. Just end that process. And you have another iexplore.exe, and that process as well. There will be a process by the name of iexplore.exe. No, not that one. Yeah, you have, okay, that's closed now. That's fine. Now you can open the Internet Explorer application and try and go to the login page. Okay, so before you go to the login page, just let us check if you've got your pop-up blocker enabled or disabled. So we'll just check that for a bit. Okay, your computer is a little slower than I expected. It would be. Are you using some kind of antivirus software? That's causing it to be as slow as it is. So I believe you should just ensure the software that you're using is not overusing your computer's resources. Try to use an antivirus which is a little less, yeah, not that causes everything to happen. Okay, so what I'm going to do, Thelma, is while you are at it and trying to open up, what I would suggest you to do is, if you go into Internet Explorer, you'll have an option for tools. You have a setting for options, under which you have a setting to disable or enable your pop-up blocker. So I will help Meeta while you bring up the application, or while you bring up this particular Internet Explorer. I will help Meeta and I'll come back to you. Okay. Okay, I'll just come back to you with it. Meeta, I'm just taking access to your screen so that I'm able to view what you can see on your computer. I've just requested access.
Actually,
yeah.
No, this laptop is a 64-bit, but I'm trying on my PC.
Okay.
So it just, once I click on login, there's a little window came out saying that please do not close this window. And then there was a note. Actually, never mind.
Okay. So when that small window opens up, if there is a yellow bar coming saying that you require Java for this application to run, click on yes. You need to click on that button and click on yes, allow it to run, and it will download components and it will open up the login page.
Oh, okay.
That's all that you need to do then.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem, Meeta. I'll see you in the next session then if everything works out for you well.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a good day. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thelma, I'm making you the presenter again here. Have to accept being the presenter so that I can view your screen then.
Okay, I was able to connect. Thank you so much.
Okay, no problem, Meeta. Have a good one.
You too.
Okay, take care. Yeah. All right. So Thelma, I'll tell you what needs to be done. If you can try it, or you can send me an email with the errors you're getting. Essentially, you need to. I'm just typing in what you need to do.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. There was one company in India, Ciba Geigy, pharmaceutical company.
Which one, sorry?
Ciba Geigy.
I'm not aware of that. I'm sorry.
You are not aware of that one. Okay.
Thelma, is it fine if you can try this on your own now? I've sent you a text as to what you need to do. All right, that's good enough then. Okay, so that's all from this session. Thanks everyone for joining the session. I'll see you in the next session, which is next week. Thanks and have a good one. Okay, thank you. Take care. Bye.
The organizer has ended the session.